Hi, I'm Sarah Alderson. I am going to talk to you today about my top tips for how to have a career as a writer. For those of you who don't know, I started writing when I was 30, and before then hadn't even considered a career as a writer. I actually worked in a non-profit in London, and now I'm sitting in my garden in California. I have published I think 20 books now in the last 10 years, and I work mainly as a screenwriter in Hollywood. So that leads me very nicely into my first tip: persevere. Basically, I started off by saying, fuck it, what's the worst that could happen? And I just kept going. And I think the main problem that people have when they start writing is that they let fear make them put their pen down, or they think I'm not good enough, or they never finish. Like, most people start books and they don't finish them. A YA book is about 80,000 words, so if you can set yourself a goal of 1,000 words, you could finish it within 80 days, which is really impressive. Number two, your first draft doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be done. So when I started writing, my first novel was Hunting Lila. I wrote that in about 4.5 months while I had a full-time job, and I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even Google how to write a book. I just sat down, very naively started writing, and 4.5 months later I had a first draft that was very, very overlong, but at least it was done. And then I sent it off to agents, and very luckily got an agent pretty fast who sent it out to publishers. But I didn't sit around waiting for answers. I had already decided I want to keep going with this writing. So I started writing Losing Lila, the sequel, before I'd even sold the first one. And then very luckily for me, I managed to sell both in a 2-book deal to Simon Schuster. So my advice there would be, if writing is what you're passionate about, just keep doing it. And don't let that voice of negativity or fear put you off. Tip number 3, really important. You do not need a degree or any formal training to be a writer. Anyone can be a writer. You could just say, I'm a writer. Do you write? Then you're a writer. I had never studied creative writing. In fact, when I was at school, my English teacher told me that I shouldn't bother studying English. So, to you, I've never studied filmmaking or screenwriting. I have probably read about 2 books on screenwriting, nothing on novel writing. I literally taught myself, and I did that through osmosis, because I spent my entire childhood watching TV and watching inappropriate movies, R-rated ones, when I was about 8. And so I grew up reading, and I still read voraciously. I still watch a huge amount of stuff, and I swear to this day that's how I learned about story and the art of storytelling. So another tip I have is, you don't have to start at the beginning. There's nothing scarier than a blank page. So one of the things I've learned as a hack to get around that is, if I can't figure out what my first sentence is, and often the first sentence is the sentence I will write last because it has to be so impactful, that I will often start with dialogue, and I will often start halfway through the book or halfway through the first chapter, and I will start with a conversation or an image or a scene that I have already in my head, and I will just start there and throw it down on paper. One of the things I started to do when I was writing my first novel, which was funny because I didn't think about screenwriting, but it was actually a technique that I still use when I'm writing scripts, was to start with conversation, and I would hear the conversation in my head and I would just write the dialogue, and then I would go back and fill in all the bits around it. And so I find that a really useful tip. So yeah, don't worry about starting at the beginning, you can always go back. Tip number 5 is get okay with failure. I am really lucky. I have made it in Hollywood, which is a dream for so many people, and I am beyond grateful every day that I have this dream job that I absolutely love. But not to sugarcoat it, it is extremely difficult to get a break in Hollywood, and maybe it looks easy for some people. I will say that I have had so many failures along the way, and it's the failures that have taught me more than anything else. I have been hung up on by studio heads in the middle of a pitch call. I have taken hundreds of meetings that resulted in nothing. I've spent days sobbing on the sofa because I've, failed to land a job, and constantly had to pick myself up, dust myself down, and keep going, even at times when I just wanted to quit. So yeah, there has been a lot of failures along the way. I've probably got 2 or 3 manuscripts in the bottom of a drawer that never saw the light of day, countless more scripts. But with each one of those, I got better. And so I would say, even if you don't get your first book published, keep going. It is a matter of just keeping on putting in the time and the effort, and not everything is going to be a success. But at each one, you are practicing your craft and you're getting better. That concludes my tips for today. I hope they were helpful, and if you liked it, give me a thumbs up, and if you want me to answer any other questions, then leave a comment below and I will try and do another video soon. Thank you.